Go.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the GD Report. I am D.
And I'm G.
Hey, everybody, it's been a few days about a week or so since we last spoke. A lot of things happening in the news. I hope everybody's doing well out there. We're going to jump right into the topic. First of all, first topic is the American Recovery Act, also known as COVID Relief Bill. Was a big priority of Joe Biden when he ran for president, and now that he is the president, the duly elected and fairly elected commander-in-chief,
Right.
I can say it. I know there's a lot of Republican politicians out there who's scared to say it, but I'll say it.
Right.
But now that he's in office, it's been his big push since he's taken office, and we had a culmination today of where the bill in its final form was passed. So why don't you tell us what happened, G-Man?
Yeah. So this bill, I think it's called the American Recovery Act, if my memory serves, is aimed to help mostly common folks out there who are still suffering from the effects of COVID. By the way, we just passed our 1-year anniversary from when COVID hit the U.S. Anyway, so the House passed it. It's a $1.9 trillion bill. It went to the Senate. The Senate took some things out of it, chewed it up a little bit, spit it back over to the House, and today the House passed it. It passed the Senate on a strictly partisan vote. No Republicans supported it, not a single one, not a Mitt Romney or Susan Collins, not a single one of them. And then it went to the House, where it passed on a 220 by 211 vote, and that's also a strictly partisan vote. So it's the first time in recent memory that any legislation is passed without any support from the opposition, and it's the first time in our nation's history that a spending bill this large has passed without a single supporter from the opposition. So in the bill is $1,400 checks if you make less than $80,000 a year, and double that if you're a couple making $150,000 or less. There's some additional money in there for kids. So if I think I read if you've got like 3 kids, you could be cashing a $5,600 check, which will hopefully help. There's money in there to give those on long-term unemployment an additional $300 a week, which will hopefully help some people bridge the gap between where they are and where they hope to be here soon. One of the things the Democrats did in the Senate was they dropped that from 400 to 300, and they extended it from August into September. And so now it won't run out while Congress is taking one of its mini breaks. So it'll run out in September when Congress is still in session. If the nation is still hurting, which last I saw, unemployment was still at about 6.5%, which is pretty high. And so if that's still the case, we could see another one of these bills come up.
Yeah. A couple big takeaways for me. Number one is, while it didn't receive any Republican votes in Congress,
Yep.
it had massive Republican support around the country.
Right.
Lots of Republican governors came out in favor for this. I found it interesting that Jim Justice, the Republican governor, now he won as a Democrat, so I'll caveat that, and then changed parties. But the Republican governor of the state of West Virginia was actually left of Joe Manchin on this.
Right.
And said that if we are ever going to go big, now's the time to go big because people need it, the states need it. I know the Republican mayor of Oklahoma City was out big time for this because of the money municipalities need to help their police departments, help their fire departments. So there's a lot of great things in this. And when you can see Republican governors, Republican mayors support something, the last poll I saw said 59% of Republicans support the bill.
Right.
So pretty good support of that. And not a single Republican vote shows that it's just a typical partisan thing.
Right.
And more Mitch McConnell at its finest, almost a part due of 2009 all over again, where his whole goal was to try to make Barack Obama a one-term president by opposing every single thing he did, even though it included many provisions that Republicans have supported.
Right.
And that's to me the big lesson that Joe Biden learned about this is that Obama tried to negotiate with the Republicans and took a lot of things out, and then Republicans didn't vote for the bill anyway.
Right.
So I know there were some sweet tooth things put in the bill specifically designed to help Alaska to try to get Lisa Murkowski's vote, and she voted against it anyway.
Right.
So the lesson is, why negotiate down on something like this? It's this important if they're not going to vote for it anyway.
Right. Well, one of the things that I heard that kind of caught my ear, and I was just, shaking my head, was one of the Republican senators said, there's no oversight in this bill. We don't know where this money's going. We don't know how it's going to be spent. And my first thought was, wow, just kind of like that first PPP program where you sent, you were supposed to help America's small businesses, and you sent all the money to like Chase and
yeah, Steve Mnuchin got a slush fund for his buddies.
Right. Yeah. So, talk about oversight. I mean, you kind of got a bunch of egg on your face there, buddy. So you might want to pick another topic.
They don't seem to have that hypocrite gene where they can recognize how hypocritical they are on a lot of things, not just this bill.
I don't know why Democrats don't come back with that. I don't know why. I hear a lot of people talking about, there's no Republicans saying there's no bipartisanship anymore. Well, my first response to that would be, well, buddy, what about Amy Coney Barrett? And my second response would be, what about Merrick Garland?
Yep.
You guys started this.
Yep.
Now you want to complain there's no bipartisanship? I don't understand why Democrats aren't hammering that home every time they bring it up.
Well, yeah, they should be doing a better job of it now. I understand there's going to be some pretty hefty campaign spends start now by the DSCC on some of those congressional races, where they're gonna highlight some of those swing districts and say, you're going to be getting a $1,400 check in about a month or less. Your congressperson didn't think you deserved it.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because if and their other argument was, oh, the economy is going to be great without it, so why do we need this much spending? And so if that's the case, then let's just play devil's advocate for a second and say Mitch McConnell Moscow Mitch was right about something. Then if that's the case, then this bill is going to super juice the economy, which means we're going to come back stronger than ever.
Right.
Which is what we need. We really need to come out of it. And I think that's what they're worried about more than anything, is that we get into 2022 and the economy's, going gangbusters, and not a single Republican voted for the bill.
Yeah. Well, I mean, go ahead.
You go ahead.
Well, studies show that it's the lower class and the lower middle class that drive the economy. So you put more money in their hands, they're going to go out and they're going to spend it, right? They don't save it. They don't put it in their IRA. They usually don't pay off credit cards. They usually go and spend it. They'll buy a new car. They'll buy a new TV. They'll buy a new washing machine, stuff they need around the house, And so, anytime you want to stimulate the economy, the more money that you can get in people like that's hands, the better off you're going to be. And so this bill does exactly that. It sends it to the people that are going to spend it. They're going to help get the economy going. And just like you said, when the economy gets rolling, this bill is just going to be, icing on the cake.
Yeah. And I mean, to me, the fact that you saw, even with some of the tweaks that the Senate did, the Progressive Caucus was still very happy. Bernie Sanders was at the signing ceremony today, where Schumer and Speaker Pelosi did their signing to send the bill to the president. He's going to sign it on Friday, I believe.
Yeah.
In the ceremony, and it's just I think it's a great day. I think people are going to remember this, because it has the ability to be a transformative piece of legislation.
Right.
That being said, kind of interesting thing happening down. It probably happened in Washington, but from a senator from the state of Mississippi, you're already starting to see the Republicans. It's going to be a solid bill when the bill hasn't even been signed by the president yet, and Republicans that voted against it are already trying to take credit for it.
Right.
Enter Senator Roger Wicker, who tweeted out today this tweet that said independent restaurant operators have won $28.6 billion worth of targeted relief. This funding will ensure small businesses can survive the pandemic by helping to adapt their operations and keep their employees on the payroll. And he linked an article in his tweet about the bill passing. This is a guy who voted against it.
Right.
And now he's trying to take credit for it. And his defense when he was called out on it was he said, well, that's something that he proposed. He proposed that, and he was a supporter of that funds for independent restaurant owners. But dude, you voted against it.
Right.
If you had your way, they wouldn't get it.
Right.
That just shows how callous they are and how calculating. And you know, I think the other big thing is I don't think they wanted to give Joe Biden a signature win this early.
Right. Yeah, so this is from an email, but it basically points out somebody in the House what they voted against. So they voted against, and this pertains to the state of Colorado. We'll get into this in a minute, but they voted against vaccine supplies in Durango, public school funding in Pueblo, help for ranchers, cutting child poverty in half. This person voted against it all. So when Republicans voted against this bill, these are some of the things they voted against. And if Democrats are smart, which, you know, we've said on this show many times, you know, they're not always the sharpest, you know, knives in the drawer or the brightest bulbs in the box. But if they're, you know, if they've got any smarts about them, they're going to use this bill. They're going to use this $1,400 check that people desperately need and want. And they're going to hammer that home for the next 18 months. And they're going to expand their lead in the House. They're going to expand their lead in the Senate. And they're going to get some stuff done in this Biden administration that desperately needs to get done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One other thing before we move on to your favorite representative from the state of Colorado is that there's continues to be push about reforming or getting rid of the filibuster.
Right.
Joe Manchin's been pretty solid about the fact that he doesn't want to get rid of the filibuster, but he's been open to some of the reforms that they're talking about, where they put the pain back on the minority, which is what it used to be.
Right. Where you have to stand up there and you actually have to stand there for the whole time and you know, talk. You can't just stand up there and sleep.
Yeah,
you have to stand
one of the reforms they started saying was that when and this is the way it used to be, when they call the votes, it's on the minority to have 40 votes or 41 votes. It's not on the majority to have 60.
Right.
So that means guys like Richard Shelby, who's 86, and Jim Inhofe, who's 86, I believe, and Charles Grassley, those guys are going to have to be sleeping on cots.
Right.
So
yeah, I think. Yeah, I hope we see some changes. So
I do too. Let's jump over to the western slopes of Colorado.
Yeah, so Colorado's resident right-wing whack job representative, Lauren Boebert, who now that Merrick Garland has been approved as the Attorney General, actually might face some charges for her role in the Capitol insurrection on January 6th. That email was about her and all the things that she didn't support when she voted against the bill. But she has a new opponent, a state senator here in Colorado by the name of Carrie Donovan. And Miss Donovan is also a Western Slope rancher. She's a native Coloradan, been here her whole entire life. And I would encourage you, wherever you're watching the show, to give her a strong look and maybe send her $5, $10, you know, just to let her know you support her candidacy and you want to see the right-wing lunacy get out of Congress. So
yeah, she Boebert had a new commercial out today where she talked about Fort Pelosi and was criticizing the security measures that are at the Capitol building right now. Called it the House of the People, which is funny considering that many of her supporters were the ones who were in that insurrection,
right?
And that caused the need for those barricades to go up.
Right.
So, what kind of chance? That district has that been a reliably conservative district? What kind of chance does the state senator have against her?
Yeah, I think, well, it depends on what kind of campaign she runs, but it's not a reliably, it's not like Weld County where Ken Buck is the representative, or El Paso County down in Colorado Springs. Those are two, conservative bastions. Um, I'm not a big Ken Buck fan, but at least he's not a right-wing whack job like Boebert. But this district out on the western slope is, and we've talked about it before, it's more of a banana shaped district. So it encompasses Steamboat Springs, which is a pretty wealthy ski town. It curves over, picks up Grand Junction, which is a reliably conservative town, and then it curves down, and the tip it picks up Pueblo, which is a strong Hispanic population town. It's usually a reliably Democrat, bastion. So, I think, and the seat has flip-flopped in the past between Republicans and Democrats. It was most recently held by Republican Scott Tipton, who Boebert beat in the primary, and then in this last election she won pretty good. The district went for Trump by about 3 percentage points, I believe. I have to check that, but I do believe Trump won it. But I think if Miss Donovan runs a pretty good campaign, she's got a commercial out that is pretty good right off the bat. So I think if she runs a good campaign, that she could take this seat back for the Dems.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting really close to having a new Secretary of the Interior, which will be Congresswoman Deborah Haaland from New Mexico. It'll be the first time we've had a Native American as the Secretary of Interior, which is such a big monumental thing. But there's also a lot of issues facing the tribes around the country. And so why don't you tell us about one of those that's happening right now?
Well, and this, when I read this story, it just, I was just seething. I was so mad that, the Trump administration would do something like this and, allow this to go forward. But in the Tonto National Forest, which is in Arizona, there's a place of land, it's known as Oak Flat, where the San Carlos Apache tribe, it's sacred to them. Anyway, it's been turned over to 2 mining companies. Now, I know what people are thinking. Well, don't we need mining? And these are copper mines. The first thing is, these aren't U.S. companies that it's been turned over to. These are 2 foreign mining companies. And actually, I'm wrong about Trump. This was actually set in motion in 2014 by Arizona's 2 Republican senators at the time. One of those was the late John McCain. But anyway, the Apaches are fighting to have this contract to the for these mines to be overturned, and so that their sacred land isn't ruined. And so far, one of the companies, Resolution Copper, has poured more than $2 billion into the project, and the U.S. government, big surprise, is on the side of these 2 foreign companies. So here we are. I don't know if I know you do, but the general population out there doesn't have much of a clue as to how bad we have just stuck it to our native peoples. But this is just another, to me, this is just another poke in the eye with a sharp stick by the U.S. government to the Native Americans.
Yeah, it continues a long course of genocide, not just of the people being killed, but the culture being killed, the sacred lands being taken over,
Right.
On and on and on. And hopefully the Secretary of Interior, Haaland, can get involved and step in, and they can get an injunction done to try to stop it. I believe this is one of those things that they tried to, I know it was started, like you said, in 2014 with the push from McCain and I'm trying to think who the other senator, it might have been Jeff Flake.
Yeah, I believe it was.
they started it, the push on that. But I think the final contracting and stuff was pushed through under Trump. They did a lot of things where they tried to open Anwar in the last days of the administration.
Yep.
And give out private money. And the thing is, those are all of our lands, and those are when it's federal forest and things like that, it's our land, and in my mind, it's our land to be preserved first of all. But if there's sacred places like that for indigenous peoples, those should be respected. And the project never should have even been started. So hopefully the Biden administration can step in on that.
Right. Yeah. Well, here's a little bit of history. So Oak Flat has been protected under federal law since 1955, when Dwight Eisenhower decreed the area off limits to mining. And then Richard Nixon's Interior Department renewed the ban in 71. But, and here's where we started down the slippery slope, it added a loophole that allowed for the area to be mined if it was traded to private interest. So basically what they're trying to do is take this portion of the national forest and trade it, probably for something, insignificant, to these two companies. One's from the UK and one's from Australia. Anyway, a bill proposing to trade away the land repeatedly failed to pass both houses of Congress since it was first introduced almost 17 years ago in 2005. But in 2014, McCain, and you're right, Flake, they slipped a last-minute rider in a must-pass defense spending bill, and that allowed for the situation to get to where we are today. So hopefully, like you said, Biden's Interior Department can step in. We can put a halt to this like we did the Keystone Pipeline, and the Apaches can keep their sacred land, keep going to their sacred place, and it can remain in the hands of the American people where it belongs.
Yep. Absolutely, yeah. You mentioned that left-wing socialist Dwight Eisenhower, the one who started that.
Right.
Preserve.
Yeah, I hate to say, we could, you hate to look back on history and say, we need that guy, but we need that kind of cooperation in Congress today. We need
yeah. I mean, the thing is, we don't have we don't have leader. We don't have two parties that are serious about governing. When one party thinks that the government shouldn't exist, how can they be a governing party? I mean, the Republicans in 1932, when the first term of FDR, when they knew they had to put the New Deal through, the said, we're going to lose elections for the next 40 years.
Yep.
But they supported the bill. Yeah. Because they knew it was the right thing.
Yeah, they knew it was the right thing, and they put country over party, and we're not getting that now. So, hopefully, as some of these guys get out, and we've had there's 5 senators already that have announced their retirement. Hopefully we get new blood in there, and people, one of the things that, Carrie Donovan says is that she's willing to work with anybody who has a good idea. Yeah. And here in the Colorado legislature, she's a state senator now, but she's done that. She's worked across the aisle and gotten a lot of stuff done. And in Colorado, there's disagreements. You're never going to agree 100%, but our state legislature is functional because our Republicans and our Democrats work across the aisle to get stuff done, and they're not obvious like they are in other places. And I think Congress would do well to emulate Colorado a little bit.
Yeah, I think my worry on some of we're going to talk when we wrap up here. We're going to talk about one more of the Senate retirement. As we see the senators retire, it's the pragmatists that are retiring.
Yeah.
And they're getting replaced with Trumpers who have no intention of governing. I mean, this is the first this is the first thing that I can remember, like major legislation, maybe since the tax cut that they jammed through. And it was mainly just a tax cut. It didn't have a whole lot of programs or anything like that. This is the first piece of legislation, big piece I can remember since Obamacare. And in the Senate, for all intents and purposes, has been a boneyard for bills.
Yep.
So
yeah, under Mitch McConnell's leadership, there hasn't been much leadership. There's been a lot of obstinance, but not much leadership.
Yeah.
So a lot of judges got passed, but not much, not much else.
Yeah. So that leads us to our last point. I'm going to throw something else in there, some breaking news. From who is senior to Josh Hawley's junior senator, run for 6 retirements now.
Wait,
5 or 6. 5
you
or
kind
6
of froze up there for a second. What?
I said, Roy Blunt, is that 5 or 6 retirements?
I think that gets us to 6.
Yeah. So you've got Pat Toomey retiring in Pennsylvania. Richard Burr announced here in North Carolina he's retiring. 6, maybe that's 5. But in any case, it's going to be Missouri's not the swing state that it used to be.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty much Republican now.
But former Governor Eric Greitens has mentioned that he might throw his hat in the ring, and people may know him from his about year and a half as governor, and then had to resign over a sex scandal where he tried to commit extortion against the woman he had the affair with.
Yeah, tell me about that.
I don't want to get. I told you on the pre-show, I'm not going to go into
the gory details.
Gory details of that one because I don't want to glamorize it. But let's just suffice it to say, he ran as this big family values guy, and then was having an affair on his wife, mother of his children, behind her back, obviously, and then wanted to extort the woman with some inappropriate photos he took of her at the time, and tried to blackmail her and say if she ever went public that he would ruin her life with those photos. And so, he was an ex-Navy SEAL. He was. A lot of people talked about him as a presidential contender one day.
Yep. It's funny how these guys want to be president, and then they just do things to just torpedo any chance they have. Like Cal Cunningham out in North Carolina. It's like,
well, and we talk about it. And another North Carolina, John Edwards, same thing.
Yeah. Yep.
He was a vice presidential candidate.
Yeah, and could have been president.
Yeah. So I mean, it's amazing though. Sometimes the amount, we've talked about this before though, the amount of hubris some of these folks have, that A, they think they can get away with anything, and B, they still think that they have a shot of winning.
Yep.
With Greitens. So I'm not sure. I haven't heard if Claire McCaskill might be interested on the Democrat side. There's been, mentions of a few. There's been several people declare in the other races. John Fetterman, the lieutenant governor of Pennsylvania, is going to run for that seat.
Right.
There's also a state senator, Kenyatta, that's going to run, I believe, in Pennsylvania. I heard an interesting name for Ohio today that may run on the Republican side.
Yeah, who's that?
Well, Josh Mandel's already said he's going to run, who's the former state treasurer who ran against Sherrod Brown, and he is a Trumper like you wouldn't believe. The state party chair says she might run. She's a Trumper. But the other name, which you'll be interested in, is Geraldo Rivera, says that he may run for that seat.
Geraldo's the only guy I've ever shaken his hand and had to immediately run to the bathroom to wash it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just talk about a slime ball. I mean, he is just.
Yeah. So.
I mean, Kurt Vonnegut threatened to shoot him.
I know.
That tells you all you need to know.
That's very, very true. So anyway, another seat open, and a lot of people watching Ron Johnson in Wisconsin when he pulled his stunt last week and made him read the recovery bill.
Right.
He had to stay on the Senate floor the whole time. That was one of the requirements. They had to have a Republican on the floor. Otherwise, they could have asked unanimous consent to end the reading.
Right.
And so he was expelled by a few people. And then he said he was tired of this place, was what he said the next day.
Yeah.
So
Well, we're tired of him. So go ahead.
Exactly right. So I promised some breaking news. We're running a little bit long tonight, but I want to get this in and this is not from the Onion. I promise you that. But a statement was issued tonight from let's see, from Mar-a-Lago, and but from the office of the former president. And it said, I don't know if you've seen this, G-Man, but
I haven't.
It said, I'm trying to get the exact quote here. I hope everyone remembers that when they're getting the COVID, and this is a quote, by the way. I hope everyone remembers when they're getting the COVID-19, parentheses, often referred to as the China virus, close parentheses, vaccine, that if I wasn't president, you wouldn't be getting that beautiful shot for 5 years at best, and probably wouldn't be getting it at all. I hope everyone remembers. End statement.
Well, first of all, I want to say that I recently read where Trump, for the third time, requested a mail-in ballot, even if after he said they were evil. But what did he do to help this process? I mean, he can say that, but the government didn't give Pfizer or Johnson & Johnson any money. Dolly Parton did, but the government didn't. So besides using the bully pulpit and trying to get companies to fast track, I guess his FDA fast track some of this stuff, but the progress has all been on the. Yeah, I mean, the progress has all been on the companies to get it fixed, right?
Yeah, it's just one more sad cry for help from this. The guy is such a narcissist. He has to try to take credit for everything.
Well, I think as it goes along, we're going to see people, even on the Republican side, suffer Trump fatigue. I know one of my acquaintances who was a huge Trump fan basically said they were sick of him. They wish he would shut up and go away. And I think the stunt where he basically threatened to sue the Republican, was it the senatorial committee for using his likeness for fundraising?
It was all three. It was the RNC, the RSCC, and the RS.
Anyway, any Republican fundraising organization, he threatened to sue if they used his likeness. And they were hoping to cash in on the people that that still support Trump. And he basically said, no, you can't do that anymore. He just wants everything for himself. And hopefully they're going to get sick of him. The rank and file are going to get sick of him. And we're going to get the country back to where it needs to be. Where people can get along and you can talk politics without the fear of getting shot.
Yeah, I agree. Well, it's been a good hearty episode tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Drop us a line. Let us know where you agree with us. Let us know where G-Man was wrong.
Right.
And everybody get your vaccine. I know the CDC had some new guidelines this week about people that have received the vaccine, but still be diligent. There's some new strains out there. If we wear our mask, we should be able to get through this all soon.
Right. Yep. And just remember, if you're not in favor of socialism, don't cash those checks. Endorse them and send them to me. All right, everybody. Have a great time, and we'll see you next week.
Care of the GD report.